Hi, welcome to Jules Bar. Today we're gonna see what's in between a Boulevardier and a paper plane. So the Negroni and the Last Word are some of the most classic cocktails, and I would like to think there is a line that connects the two. And this line passes through on one side the Boulevardier and on the other side the paper plane, a modern classic. So to make things more concrete, let's start by mixing ourselves a Boulevardier. A Boulevardier is nothing else than a Negroni where you substitute the gin for some whiskey. I'm gonna build it directly in this glass. So it's equal parts Campari, sweet vermouth. I'm gonna use Antica Formula by Carpano, our standard go-to full-bodied sweet vermouth. And then as a whiskey I'm gonna use this bourbon, the Old Grandad Bottling Bond. The Old Grandad used to be my standard at 40% ABV. Now I got this 50% ABV, which is Bottling Bond, and smells amazing. And I think it should work fine for all of the recipe we're gonna have today. It's gonna be the only connecting thread through everything we are gonna do. So 30 milliliters of this too. Then we just get one big rock of ice. And we twist it a bit to cool everything down and start the dilution process. So Boulevardier is one of the most classic and one of the best cocktails around, if you ask me. Of course, it's a simple variation on the Negroni, and you substitute the gin for a whiskey. In this case, a bourbon, but you can also do it with single malt. I used to do it with Glenmorangie, and you can check out my French Cabosso Negroni in my Cabosso video, which is also a variation on the Negroni / Boulevardier. Once it's nicely chilled, we just express some orange peel. I wish they would grow some oranges here in Japan, but I just don't think they do. The market is so full of mandarins, but nobody grows oranges. And there you go, Boulevardier, one of the all-time classic. Cheers. It's great. I like it like this, with equal parts. This Old Grandad 50% jumps at you with a good amount of spice in this cocktail. I like Campari and Antica Formula, so I have no problem with this. I think it's a great drink. I can drink this all the time, just like an old-fashioned. This is just balanced, perfect classic drink. And by changing the whiskey, you can just adjust it to your preference as much as you want. Now, let's take the problem we wanted to tackle, the line between a Negroni and Last Word, from the side of the Last Word. The Last Word, you can check it in my video where I made the Last Corpse. It's not actually one of my favorites, because I think it's a bit unbalanced, but that's also equal parts gin, green chartreuse, lemon juice, and maraschino liqueur. Now the paper blend, which is what people will call a modern classic, exchange the gin for whiskey, the chartreuse, I guess, for Amaro Nonino, and the maraschino for Aperol, which to me, more than a variation or a change, it just feels like a pretty different cocktail. But anyway, let's mix one and let's see what we think about it. This is gonna be a shaken cocktail that we are gonna stir in our chilled coupe. Let's start with the lemon. And what do you know? I finished the lemon, so I'm gonna approximate with a mix of lime and orange juice. And I'm gonna do equal parts. The IBA specification calls for 30 milliliters of everything, but that makes kind of big drink. I'm gonna do 22.5 milliliters of everything, which is 3/4 of an ounce for everything. Let's give a taste to our makeup juice. Yeah, I guess we're fine. Anyway, spoiler alert, I didn't like it that much with lemon juice. It was my main complaint about the paper plane, so let's try with a different juice. I'm gonna measure 22.5 milliliters of juice. Then we go with 22.5 milliliters of Aperol. Aperol is way lighter than Campari. You can see I usually prefer Campari, for example, in my spritz. You can see in the first video I ever made how to fix the spritz. But Aperol has some quality too. It's more orange forward. It's definitely lighter and less spicy. More pleasant for people that don't like sharp edges. And the Amaro Nonino, which is the next thing we're gonna put in, is also a kind of peculiar Amaro. Amaro are these kind of Italian distillates or herbal liquor that in Italy are really one dime a dozen. But this particular Amaro is kind of expensive. Nonino is this brand which is really famous for their grappas. This Amaro is definitely better than the average Amaro, and it has a lot more orange flavor in it. In fact, to me, this just tastes like a Aperol on steroids with a background of bitterness. So now we did the juices, the Aperol, the Nonino, and then we go for 22.5 milliliters of our bourbon, which we are gonna keep constant throughout. Let's get some ice. And give everything a good shake. One thing I read about the paper plane is to not overshake it, so yeah, I guess we got enough shake. Double strain, just in case we have some ice speckles. Which we do. And as a garnish you could have an orange peel, but also nothing. So this is a paper plane, a modern classic developed in the 2000 by some guy I'm gonna write down below. And cheers! This is actually way better than the first one I made with lemon juice. By using this mix of orange and lime, I kind of already fixed my main complaint about the paper plane, which was that the acidity of the lemon was overpowering and striding against the bitterness of the Amaro. This is actually pretty good. I think maybe I'm gonna have one more video about the paper plane where I examine exactly which juice to put, but it's not pure lemon juice in my opinion. Unless you want to reduce the amount of lemon juice. If you want to keep equal parts, this lime-orange mix I kinda did randomly, or probably something with grapefruit is gonna mesh better in my opinion. But this is pretty good. It's pretty refreshing, definitely more balanced than the last word, which added too much maraschino in the original recipe. The last corpse, my recipe, is perfect of course. It goes down really nicely with a perfect amount of sweet and sour. The acidity is also well balanced, and the bitterness on the nonino doesn't jump at you at the end like it did the first time I made this cocktail using pure lemon juice. So now we have the Boulevardier and the Paper Plane. Let's find the connection in between to close the bridge between the Negroni and the last word. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna follow the Boulevardier recipe, but this time I'm gonna start by using Aperol. So a lighter base bitter. And I came out with this recipe because my wife is not a fan of Campari. So one day I was like, well, let's try and make something with Aperol, but on the track of the Boulevardier. And then enter the Punta Mess. Punta Mess is a sweet vermouth from Italy, which is 2/3 sweet vermouth and 1/3 Amaro. So in one we combine the vermouth from the Antica formula and in a way the Amaro from the Nonino, somewhere in between. I like in-betweens. A friend of mine says that if whatever two things or values I could choose from, I will always go from the one in between, which is kind of true sometimes. And then we're gonna use again the Old Grandad as our bourbon. Again, 30 milliliters. Let's get a big rock of ice. Let's give it a stir. And let's see where we land with this in between a Boulevardier and a Paper Plane. Let's just express some orange peel here too. And there you go. The Paper Boulevardier, I don't know. In between. Cheers. It's a bit sweeter than I thought it would be. Let's compare all three. The classic Boulevardier has more bite from the Campari. This slightly modified version of the Paper Plane is really good. It's really happily acidic. Nice. And this in between is just a bit sweet. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the Punta Mess, but it should be a bit more bitter than the normal. I guess it doesn't have the counterbalance from the Campari. So instead of tasting bitter like an Amaro would be, instead it tastes sweet. But it's pretty nice. I would suggest this in between if, like, you have a friend and you want to mix a Boulevardier, but the friend likes a bit sweeter cocktail, or it's a bit less used to having some stronger alcohol. I think by going with this formula, you're gonna give about the same experience that you will get from a Boulevardier, but a bit on the sweeter side. Still, you don't lose much in complexity, and it's a good drink. At least you don't feel like you serve them something like too weak. It's a good drink. I'm really surprised about this Paper Plane, which first time I made I didn't like, and this time where I got the juices wrong, actually they were right. It's actually a lot better. Might need to revisit this with different juices and see which one is better in the end. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, and do whatever you want in the end. Hope you're having a good time in the new year, and stir yourself a drink, mix yourself a drink, shake yourself a drink, and I will see you next time. Cheers. L'ombra della sera, poche stelle, livido improvviso sulla tua pelle. Correre felice a perdifiato, fare a gara chi vedere, chi resta indietro. E tu ed io
per non sciupare tutto e baciare.